From the Middle is a proud founding member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? For those of you who are on YouTube, Dylan's over there looking like he's trying to do math in his head. And then he tried to do the suave, smooth, I'm going to flip my glasses open and put them on with one hand thing, and it didn't quite work out. But we love him anyway. Laughing at him over there is his brother, Corey. My name is Kendall. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that is somewhere in the middle. And this is episode number 90. Woohoo! 90. Episode 90. We've done 89 of these things, and here we are again doing another one. This is we're a podcast that we like to talk about anything, just about, and everything almost. And we know stuff about some things, and other things we don't know much about, but that doesn't stop us from pretending. And so we want to welcome you. And for those of you who this might be your first time listening and you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on here, why is this intro taking so long, and those kinds of things, well, it doesn't get much better than what's going on right now. We talk about our lives and what's going on. For example, right now, I'm eating gummy bears and Haribo gummy bears. Which Haribo is the gummy bear. If you're going to get into gummy bears, I don't know how many gummy bear connoisseurs there are out there. But I recently actually did a taste test between a Meyer brand gummy bear and the Haribo gummy bears. I did it with my 6-year-old son. He's all about the Meyer brand ones. Haribo is still the way to go for me. It's a texture thing.
Did you mix in the sugar-free ones too?
I didn't know that sugar-free gummy bears were a thing.
Oh, boy.
But if I had eaten sugar-free gummy bears, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys right now. I'd be in the bathroom.
That's right. And if you're not familiar and are down for a real good time, do yourself a favor and look at the Amazon reviews for the 5-pound bag of the sugar-free Haribo gummy bears. And there is some writing in there that is at and above the level of the world's top comedic writers. It is quite hilarious. I was at a business dinner once, and my colleagues were unfamiliar with these now infamous reviews, and we started reading them. Yeah. Pretty sure I've talked about this on the podcast before, so I apologize if it's a repeat for our diehards. We were crying laughing reading these reviews because you're right, Kendall. It does some things to your insides that you didn't know was scientifically possible.
Indeed.
So anyway.
This sounds like a good time to transition and tease a little bit, maybe about next week and pizza. And the timing couldn't be worse, Spencer, and I apologize for that, actually. But so we've talked about here on the podcast, Dylan leading the conversation about a place here in Central Ohio that has developed a strong cult following. A man by the name of Spencer making pizzas out of his kitchen and selling them and growing and eventually working out of a kitchen to do so, and now building and completing a brick and mortar shop, and the place has been just on fire. We're talking months long waiting list to get a pizza from this guy. Something that we had the pleasure of experiencing not too long ago. We're not going to talk much about it because better than talking about it is having the Wizard of Zaw himself on next week. And so look forward to that. We're looking forward to it. We're going to talk about our experiences, and that's that one.
That's going to be a good one. I'm so excited to hear how he's gone from, I mean, we've even titled episodes Underground Pizza, right? We've talked about how this is kind of a thing in other cities. Pete and Sebastian have a local version of it in LA and And yeah, we got to experience it, and he's going from underground to very much above ground, and we're excited to chat with him. So be sure to tune in next week for episode 91 with the Wizard of Za.
Yeah, and as long as he doesn't figure out that we're complete idiots, he'll still come on next week, and we'll have a great time chatting. And I'm looking forward to it. And if nothing else, we'll share some of our pictures from along the way, so you can see what the experience was like. So obviously, stay tuned to all of our social media channels as well. Kendall, thank you for the introduction. I've never heard my name in the same sentence as the words suave and smooth. I'm going to pretend that was a compliment.
Did I say suave? Doesn't
I
sound
think
like
so.
me.
I'm gonna
Okay.
pretend it was in there and it was a compliment. That'll make me feel better. What is going on with you guys? How was your week?
Go ahead, Corey.
Well, one of the other things we've talked about in previous episodes is my disdain for the term fur baby and how human beings refer to their pets as though they were human beings or they are related, or if you were to get a Mother's or Father's Day card from your pet signed with a cute little paw print, how much that all bothers me. Well, my middle child turned 11 this past weekend, and out of all of my children, she is most fond of our dog that is a dog and nothing else. And my wife thought it would be hilarious to buy her a shirt that says Dog Mom. And the O in the word dog is in fact a paw print. And she said, wear this for your birthday. We'll see what your dad thinks of it. And it was her birthday.
Well, good.
So I didn't say anything.
Good.
I feel like the previous podcast episode version of me is very disappointed in me. And I needed you guys' reaction to this.
I mean, maybe when it finds itself in the hamper, it just never resurfaces. You know? I don't think that's unreasonable. Socks get lost all the time. Maybe a shirt gets lost.
That's
Dog Mom. She's 11 and it says Dog Mom. I just thought that was funny, and that our loyal.
it is funny. I appreciate the joke that that they're playing on you. Like that part I like. I enjoy. I have a sister who used to have rabbits, and if I'm remembering this right, I would get like birthday cards or gifts or something from the rabbit, and it would she would actually feed the edge of the card to the rabbit so it could nibble on it, and that was the rabbit signing the card for me. So I've certainly had that experience. I live with siblings who also will make sure that that the different pets from the different families get each other gifts, right? So the rabbit will get a gift for someone else's bird, and all kinds of nonsense like that.
I'm not making
questions.
Fun of your family members.
Questions around Christmas time, so what does Toby like to eat? I'm just forget it.
He's in the other room. Be quiet.
We haven't. He still thinks Santa's real.
This is good. This is the episode full of callbacks. I love it.
This is something else. So I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know.
Speaking of callbacks and guests, one of the other things I did this past weekend was our good friend Jeremy Kester came over. And huge shout out to him and what he's doing with his new podcast, Renaissance Radio, which is a part of the Renaissance agency that he has started. He's done a handful of really thoughtful episodes. His whole goal is to sort of gather creatives and techies and craftsmen and artists and just sort of unofficially sort of group them together and see how that might benefit the world at large. And so how he's starting things off is just to go interview folks that fall into that category that he already knows. And he's had some really interesting guests, business owners, filmmakers, really interesting stuff on his show. And he lowered his standards and allowed me to be a part of one of the discussions. So he came over on Sunday afternoon and we had a great chat and we recorded a podcast that is to be released. But it made me realize, you guys, because it was so, when we try to have guests and it's hard to do now during COVID, but our hope is that the conversation always feels genuine and sort of not forced. You guys, I don't know how we managed to pull it off, but it felt like we genuinely just caught up with one another and there happened to be microphones in the room. Mm-hmm. And so we really struck that desired authenticity. And it made me realize how much I miss quality conversation over a cup of coffee. Yeah. It's been really hard for us to continue to do our episodes without being able to hang out in the studio and all the joking that happens beforehand. And as you set up mics and just get to see each other once again, there's usually about 30 minutes of just catching up and laughing and stuff. But yeah, because of our COVID and quarantining, we've just been in the house for a really long time. And it was good to be face to face with a human being that isn't already a part of the family and just catch up. And I miss conversation over coffee. It did my heart good. So we'll get more details out to you about when that's going to release. But that was a lot of fun. So thanks, Jeremy, for having us. And seriously, go check out Renaissance Radio and the Renaissance Agency. We'll put the links in the description below so that you can check that out for yourself. But just wish him a great start to what he's trying to do over there.
Cool. Any other new news?
Well, I had something that was a little surprising. I thought I would share. So my daughter also recently had a birthday, so she's got a couple new toys, and she was with my wife, her mom, and her were at the kitchen sink. I wasn't really paying attention to what they were doing. I walked out of the room. I came back in to what appeared to be a miniature Bacta tank from Star Wars with Luke Skywalker floating in it. And I was pretty caught off guard because it just didn't compute. Cylinder, clear cylinder, blue water thing floating, humanoid floating in the middle of this cylinder. It literally was like Bacta tank. If you don't know what that is, just Google search Star Wars BACTA tank, Bacta tank. And so I'm kind of staring at this thing for a minute, no idea what it is. And it turns out it's a Barbie. And so I'm trying to figure out what this is. And my wife is explaining, have you guys seen these Barbie reveal toys?
No.
So it's well, why would you? So it's a Barbie, a small, it's not the normal, what I would call G.I. Joe, foot size. It's a smaller, I don't know, 6 or 8 inch Barbie figure, totally covered in paint. And you don't know what the Barbie looks like or is wearing. So you put them in water, the paint comes off, which becomes like a sparkly, swirly water, and the paint comes off. Yeah. And then you can see their hair color, their outfit, all of that. And then in the box, there's some accessories to put on them once you've revealed the character underneath. And so I just, for a moment, I was so excited. Maybe she had a Star Wars toy. And it turns out it's just a fancy paint colored Barbie. And so it was like a little Barbie back to tank. And it was just, yeah, I mean, it was a total surprise. So then once I saw them pull the figure out, I knew it wasn't Luke. I wasn't excited to play with the new toy, and I was disappointed for myself, not for her. I'm sure she had a blast with it. But anyways, just a while. It was just that kind of initial look. And the cylinder's a little bigger than they make it look in that picture. If you're on YouTube, Corey's showing a picture of it. It's a little wider, so it looks more like, and it was like a deep blue like color swirling around inside the little cylinder, and it was really weird. Well, cool at first and then just weird at the end when it wasn't Star Wars themed.
So is the Barbie like it's got this paint that dissolves off, right?
Right
When you put it in the water. So like some of those pictures I just saw, like swimsuits or something. Like, what other options are there? Like, how else would the Barbie come out?
There's just like normal clothes underneath the paint. So like
they're like skin tight clothes.
I guess. I mean, they're not like clothes that you can remove. But then the Barbie has like a ponytail made of like hair like fibers that you stick on after the paint has been revealed, or like a skirt, like a little skirt that's you can put on after or whatever. So there's like accessories in the box that are randomized, like Pokemon cards that you just slap on them once it's done. And so it was just bizarre. Like, it was a weird, obviously there was nothing like that, when we were kids. So anyways, so yeah, it's a thing. I thought for a second she had a cool new Star Wars toy. She doesn't. But it's fine. She can go on playing with it. And that was the weird toy that I thought she had.
Are those is it like accessories like that?
Yeah. It's normal stuff that a Barbie might have, like accessories and clothes and stuff. But some of them have like bathing suits, and some of them just have like normal, like it would be like leggings or something on a Barbie. It was bizarre.
So you turn C-3PO into a Barbie.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Are we gonna watch a video?
I don't know.
No, we're not.
So that was fun. And then we went to she's very, very good at spotting restaurants when we drive around. And so, hey, Dad, there's Wendy's, and hey, there's Arby's. She knows all those because we obviously eat them. Anyways, so we go to Firehouse, and she's asking a lot of questions because she doesn't really know Firehouse subs. We don't go there super often. And yeah, the back to tank was kind of like the picture on the left. Like, it was so weird. It was wider. Anyway, so we're at Firehouse, and she's asking questions about what we're getting. And so we're driving home, and the delivery couldn't have been better. Totally deadpan. I hear her from the back seat asking, what did we get? And I said, it's a sub. We got subs from Firehouse Subs. And just totally deadpan, the response was, so are they spicy or are they good? Was the question. Totally serious, not being silly, or she has enough point of reference for spicy. And I just love that those were the only two options when we got subs, spicy or good.
Spicy or good.
Those were it. So I told her both, and if she wanted to try it, she could. So it was good though. It was fun. We had a lot of fun. I took some time off work, and she's got a lot of new toys to play with, and so she's been running around the house, and a new scooter, but it's super icy here, so we're looking forward to taking her outside and playing a little bit.
You should tell the story about how when I FaceTimed and you encouraged me to reinforce the importance of the helmet.
Yeah.
And how I, in true uncle fashion, took it. Go ahead.
I'll give the abbreviated version. I don't want to paint with too much color and make you look bad. So she gets a new scooter and a helmet, and she's very excited about the scooter. The scooter looks like one of those little, I don't know what they're called. They were really popular 10, 20 years ago. It's handlebars on like, yeah. It's like a razor, but it's built for younger kids, and there's a seat that folds down from the main bar with the handle, so you can sit on it and ride on it, or stand up on it like a razor. So she's very excited to sit on it and roll around. She is not excited about the helmet. And so we're explaining to her, you have to use the helmet. It keeps you from getting, bumps on your head or whatever if you fall. And so we're FaceTiming and she's showing Corey the scooter. So I very quickly turn the phone towards my face and say, and she has to wear the helmet. Like I whisper it to Corey, like, hey, tell her she needs to use the helmet. Being a parent and trying to use other people to tell your kids the things.
Hey, nothing wrong with it.
Well, we told her to, but anyways, so he decides that the way to explain it to my 3-year-old is you wear your helmet so you don't crush your head.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Like dropping an egg on the ground that would smash open. You should wear your helmet so you don't crush your head. So the rest of the day was something to the effect of her saying, it's like an egg in the kitchen. I don't want to crush my head. To her grandparents on FaceTime and to us and other family members who are calling. She's talking about how she doesn't want to crush her head.
Yeah. And so she wants to wear the helmet.
Yes.
Good job, Uncle Corey.
Painted a little bit more of a picture than probably we would have. If you are CPS or are listening, that was Corey. Please go talk to him at his house. We did not use the word crush and head in the same sentence, but
so hey, I'm not. So my kids are 5 and 6, and I've already started to explain certain safety precautions to them with telling them that they could die if they don't do what they're told in certain situations. But I do remember like thinking about that. Like, do I tell them that like death is a possibility here? And the conclusion I've come to recently is like, yeah, I got to tell them that. So I do.
When you're telling your kids, we live in a neighborhood and luckily we're a dead end, but there are some cars that fly through here. When you're teaching them the importance of looking both ways, how else do you paint that picture but to say, if one of those cars hits you, it's going to squash you like a bug. You got to be a little, you know how effective that this is your brain on drugs commercial was in like the 90s?
Yeah, when you were a teenager and understood. Not one day into being 3.
Dude, Kendall, I literally said, do you know how you have eggs in the kitchen? I said, Finley, what happens if you were to drop one of those eggs? And she looks around, she's like, it would crush. I go, yeah, it would crush. And that's what would happen to your head if you don't wear your helmet. And Dylan's just like, what are you doing? I hear Bree in the background like, really? Okay.
One day into 3 years old. That's what she got.
Sorry, Bree and Dylan. Love you, Finley.
No, it was fine. She only said it the rest of the day on every FaceTime call with every family member we had. It was good. She forgot it by the next day. So.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, hey, but now that the cat's out of the bag, so you can use it now.
Yeah.
Speaking of eggs.
Clean your room. Why? Because you'll die if you don't.
Speaking of eggs, I have a crazy day today. And I have like 10 minutes to go fix myself something at like 1:30 in the afternoon. That's how long it's been. I've missed lunch. And because Jeremy Kester was here and he's a photographer and filmographer, I was feeling artsy fartsy. And I was like, I'm going to do a time lapse of me making my favorite breakfast sandwich. I don't necessarily think I make the world's best breakfast sandwich, but it would just be fun to see how it looks in a time-lapse video.
Sure.
So I make it and I post it on Facebook because I thought it was interesting. It's 30 seconds long. People lit me up because I broke the yolks of my eggs for the sandwich. Like 2 people were like, that looks good. And everyone else was like, you broke the yolks? You lost me at the broken yolk. Now, when I was growing up, there was a band that one of my friends was a part of named Broken Yolk. So that's a whole separate story. But it just reminded me how funny it is. And this is actually one of the things that I do love. I'm mostly being funny about how particular people get about the ways that things should be done. And we are guilty of this ourselves.
Mhm.
But if you post something thoughtful or meaningful on Facebook, you might get 2 comments. Post a video about how you like to make your breakfast sandwich? Uprising.
You know what, I appreciate that actually, and now I happen to be on your side when it comes to putting egg on. I've never been a fan of the craze of putting an over easy egg on a sandwich, even on a burger. Like I don't like the runny yolk mess on my fingers thing. And so when I make a breakfast sandwich, I also break the yolk. If I'm just eating eggs, like eggs and toast or something, I'm not breaking the yolks up for that. But no, I'm actually on your side. But I did appreciate the comments, and I want to say too. So
I had like 350 views and like 25 comments just in the in a few hours.
yeah,
You're almost at 450. I just checked. So
But,
in probably the half hour since you checked, another 100 people have watched the video.
So I mean, at some point, right after like 3 or 4 people comment about the yolk, everyone else is just commenting because it's now funny to comment about the yolk. But my wife included, and so this is no surprise to anybody. Like, I'm not one to pay a whole lot of attention to social media, but my wife is showing it to me, and going through all the comments about the yolks, and then she shows me and the reason why she wanted to show me is because she showed me what she had commented, because she also got on your case about breaking the yolks, and then you had commented to her, and so now she's sitting there and she's like, so she had said, I forget what she had posted, like what she meant to say was like, no yolk about it, you don't know how to cook an egg.
Yeah.
She forgot the word it, so it just said no yolk about, comma, you don't know how to cook an egg. And so Corey came back with no yolk about it, you forget words. And Amy was just like staring at that. She's like, I've read it like 10 times. I didn't forget anything. And so she showed it to me. And I'm like, no, you forgot the word it. She's like, ugh. And we had a good laugh about it. And then she's like, how do I respond? And so I look at it and I look at him like, he used the wrong word. He put yoke, Y-O-K-E, instead of yolk, Y-O-L-K. All you need to do is correct that and it's game over. But by the time we had that discussion and she had did the asterisk yolk thing to reply to you, it wouldn't take because Corey had deleted his response. And then but not right, like, and then like minutes later, he replied back to her comment with what he was going to say originally, only he fixed the typo.
Yeah. It doesn't the art of war talk about the importance of knowing your enemy's tactics? It's funny because we had James Taylor on the show and he's a friend of ours, and he was the main one rallying support for this yolk business. Y'all and your precious yolks. I like a dippy egg. I just want it with the eggs and I want to dip my toast in it. I don't want it all over my hands in a salmon.
Yeah, I'm
with
you.
Kendall. So anyway,
I don't feel like cleaning up my table after I'm done eating my sandwich.
That's right. So I text him offline, and here's what I say. I see what you're doing with the rallying and support for unbroken yolks via your reactions, and I don't care for it. Let people enjoy things. And he said, I didn't realize I was fighting for such a worthy cause. And I said, I have nothing to say about people who like Android-shaped paperweights, Xbox consoles, Star Trek, etc., because the epitome of
right.
hypocrisy, right? Anyway, we had a good laugh, but man, it got opinionated up in there. Anyway, I thought it was funny.
I like that. That's the kind of thing people get opinion.
I really do love it, and I like thinking that somebody somewhere thinks I'm actually fired up about it.
Yeah.
I just like.
See, that's what I just want to go back to the days where that's what social media is for. I know that people like to, I don't know. I said it before. If you're my friend on Facebook and you post political stuff too often, I unfollowed you a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's the way that goes. The moment I discovered I have the freedom to stay friends with people, but also manage my
Never
own
see what they
feed,
have to say.
but also manage my feed so that for me, Facebook doesn't have to be a political experience. As soon as I realized that, I was like, all right, I'm fixing this right now.
That's right.
So I've done that. I'll take a look at Broken Yolks. I'll look at people's pictures of their cute kids, and that's all well and good. And to be honest with you, I'm not even looking at any of that stuff often anyway. These days, when I go onto Facebook, it is because I'm checking groups.
Yep.
But
one group in particular.
One group in particular.
From the middle.
And if you're not following all of us on social media, it's quality content like time-lapse videos of breakfast sandwiches that you're missing. And speaking of sandwiches, it's time for a Twitter poll. Okay, are you guys ready?
Right.
We haven't done a Twitter poll in a while. This one seemed simple enough, but got a lot of comments of people not being able to decide. So here's the question.
We got a stumper.
If you had to give up what?
We got a stumper.
Well, people voted, but there were a lot of people that couldn't decide. If you had to give up one of the following for life, which would it be? Burgers, pasta, pizza, or tacos/burritos. You have to give up one of them forever. Since we love talking about food, this is it. One more time. That's burgers, pasta, pizza, tacos, and burritos.
Were some of the comments like, you monster, how dare you? Why would you do this to a person?
Yeah.
Yeah, all those things. Yeah, I'll try to find them. So do you guys know what people picked? I mean, what do you think most people were willing to give up of those?
I'm going to answer for myself first and say for me it's tacos and burritos.
Okay.
But I'm going to guess that pasta is what most people checked. That's my
Corey?
guess.
I'm not going to answer for myself because I want Spencer to come on the show next week.
Okay.
Oh, you wouldn't.
So my non-answer is an answer. And I would also guess that people could live without pasta.
You were right. Pasta had 40% of the votes. The next most selected that people would give up is tacos and burritos.
Oh, tacos and burritos.
Yeah. Then burgers at 20%, and then pizza was 11. So pizza was the most loved item. And our friends from Grief Burrito tweeted it, "You monsters, do you know how much I'm suffering with this question?" And I replied, "It was pretty easy for me. Buy pasta." Now, reminder, our Grief Burrito friends are in Europe with close access to the Mediterranean. And their response to that was, "You're having the wrong pasta, my dude." And I said, "I live in the middle of America. Of course I'm having the wrong pasta." So that was my response. But yes, most people were willing to give up pasta at 40%, tacos and burritos 29%, then burgers at 20%, and pizza at 11%, which I think is a wonderful segue to far and away the most popular food that people wouldn't give up. And that's going to be next week. And I'm very excited. And if you want to let Spencer weigh in, I'm sure he'll pick pizza as the food to keep. But it might be interesting what he would give up first.
Very interesting. Kendall, we gave our updates, and I'm hyper aware that we didn't hear anything from you by way of updates. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us before we move on?
Oh boy, you know what I want to share with you?
Yeah.
What I want to share with you is an ad break.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm Richie.
And I'm Little Matt.
And here at the 500 Section Lounge, we have a few requirements.
First, you've got to be able to talk about anything at all.
Secondly, you need to be able to laugh, play games, and talk to some very interesting people.
From sports radio personalities to reality television contest finalists and everything in between, we talk to them all.
Yeah, it's all right here in the lounge.
So be on the lookout for what we do next.
and always be there to
Grab a listen.
So anyway, that's what's going on in my life, and I'm still trying to get rid of the acne. Speaking of stereotypes, that's coming. This
Middle of America, we don't have
middle
any.
of America, middle chapter, some of that, whatever,
Our
something.
cheese
State of
is-
Ohio and stereotypes.
Our
So
cheese is terrible. We don't know how to. eat
right,
food.
yeah, we don't. I mean, pasta is basically just flour, but somehow someplace has the corner on that. But here in Ohio, everybody has seen these things, I think, floating around social media of like here's your state, see what the stereotypes are in your state and whatnot, and then you go and you read these articles that look like they were probably written by a 12-year-old. Well, I ran into one of those stereotypes for the state of Ohio. I thought it'd be fun if we could all take a look at some of the things on this list and confirm or deny, because we have been elected from our great state to represent our state in all things culture. They have said that the guys from the Middle podcast, that when they speak for all of us. And so that's what we're going to do officially and on the record. The first thing to discuss stereotypes of Ohio: everyone is a raving lunatic when it comes to football. Confirm or deny? And I think just to set kind of a ground rule here, if it's basically true, then go ahead and it's a fair stereotype then at that point. If it's usually true, if it's 85% of the population, I think that's a pretty fair stereotype.
But we started with, we didn't start with enjoys football. We started with raving lunatic.
Raving lunatic.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to say no.
I deny.
Yeah, I would also say no. I would say that Ohio State football is on the short list of places that have sort of the most focused fan base. As in people were like, as in a fan base where it's like when they think of sports, that specifically is what they think about. And they almost have blinders on to what's going on in the rest of the sports world, even within their own league. But
this is where I think it would be interesting, especially as we're getting more listeners, internationally, that we can add some color commentary. So like, it is true that most schools in our state, high school and college, the lion's share of the talent and interest in watching is for football. And so it's like Texas and other hot spots in the US that high school football is a big deal. Friday Night Lights, that whole thing, the culture around football, more than other sports. So where other schools might have a strong team here or there, for the most part, by and large, football is most often the biggest deal at most schools. We do have two pro football teams, and then of course the Ohio State University. So that might just be interesting to folks all around the world listening who go, because here it's football or soccer, or maybe in some Asian countries it's baseball, right? Or cricket, right? So
there you go. Next one. We'll tell you that we have good chili, but really we know better, is the next one, which is weird and funny. But and I feel like that's more regional. We're in Columbus. If we were in Cincinnati, we would probably agree with that one a lot harder. Like Skyline chili, Cincinnati chili is a thing. It's not like a huge thing in Columbus, and we're an hour and a half, couple hours or something away.
Yeah, that whole thing is hyper regional to Southwest Ohio. I don't know anybody not from Cincinnati that's like goes crazy over chili like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's not an Ohio thing. That's a greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Kentuckiana, whatever they call it. Like that's
tri-state.
Yeah,
is that what they mean? Is that what they mean by but really we know better, or there are other parts of the U.S. that have way better chili?
So it says, don't get me wrong, Ohio has some decent things going for it, but chili ain't one of them. What's Ohio's major contribution to the chili pantheon? Skyline chili, and that's about it. If you're from Ohio, you really like it. Watery, overspiced meat sauce sloshed over spaghetti noodles.
Yeah, I mean, that's accurate.
Read that again, that last bit.
It's a watery, overspiced meat sauce sloshed over spaghetti noodles.
Man, we are turning some stomachs.
Cincinnatians love it, but that's because they were raised on it.
Yeah.
Everyone else hates it, as they should. I think that's harsh and also inaccurate. I happen to like Cincinnati chili, but I think but yeah, the tone of this is relatively correct. People in Cincinnati love the stuff, and they were raised on it, and they think it's the best thing in the world. The rest of Ohio's like, yeah, I go sometimes to my local Skyline. It's all right. I expect diarrhea afterward.
There's a theme in episode 90. No, but if you had some out-of-state colleagues and you happen to be in Cincinnati, this happened to me once. Well, I had one from Texas. I think one from Germany. Anyway, it was like, well, we got to go have Skyline because they're here. I probably wouldn't get it, but they're here, so we got to take them.
Sure.
That's weird. Normally, when I have guests out of town, I want them to eat the best food local, not the stereotype. Like, I feel like if we were visiting the gentleman from Grief Burrito in Knutsford, and they wouldn't want to take us to like Pizza Hut there,
right?
They would want to like, no, let's go to a pub. We'll get some great, local stuff.
Mashed potatoes.
Yeah, fish and chips and lamb,
potatoes,
stuff like that. I hope mashed potatoes are involved. That, in my mind, is what. Anyways, okay, next one.
Some of these are really dumb that I've never heard. Like, we get super annoyed by people who can't tell the difference between our state and Iowa.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
That's not
too.
a thing. Yeah,
it's not real. You're not real.
You're not real.
Iowa specifically is the weird part. Who can't tell our state from the rest of the middle of the country? Are we annoyed by that? I don't think so. But more annoyed by not being able to identify Ohio than all the rest of the states that aren't New York, Florida, Texas, and California.
Right.
Maybe.
I'd venture a guess that there would be a high percentage of people who can't point to the state of New York on a map. They can say it's about here, but I'd say there's probably a lot of people who wouldn't be able to do it. They'd point to Pennsylvania or something instead on accident.
They're American that can't do it.
People that are American that wouldn't be able to point to New York.
Yeah, I would agree. I think far more. You might have far more foreigners that could point to New York on a map than
you're probably right.
That could point to New York on a map.
So I think the idea behind that is that at least part of the idea is that the two states are interchangeable in experience, just flat, plain lands, nothing but cornfield. And people think that Ohio and Iowa are the same in that way.
Deny.
Yeah. I mean, that's true about large swaths of Ohio, but Ohio has mountains. Ohio has hills.
Multiple major cities with metropolitan areas.
Yeah. Ohio has Lake Erie.
Cedar Point. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame. There's stuff. There is stuff. There is stuff.
Let's see here. Everyone claims to be from a major Ohio city.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that true?
People just round up to the nearest major city when they talk about it.
Where you guys grew up? Where would you tell people you grew up?
Well, there's no major city around.
I know, that's my question. That's why.
Here's the order of operations. You say, I'm from Ada. Heard of it? No. Ohio Northern University? Nothing. Okay. Lima? And then they go,
you'll get some people with Lima.
And then you'll go hour south of Toledo.
Yeah, I'm a little less specific on the first one. It's where you from? Northwest Ohio. Oh, where from? And then you say, have you ever heard of Ada or Ohio Northern University? Because they haven't. or they've only heard of the college but not the town. And if they haven't heard of either of those, then you just say it's somewhere kind of between Lima and Findlay, if you're familiar with either of those cities. And if they're really not familiar, then you go, I don't know, Toledo, Dayton,
Yeah.
kind of close enough to those. But yes, I think most people that are in a burb around like Columbus, they just say Columbus.
I just say Columbus now that I live just north.
I'm 30 minutes, from downtown Columbus, and I just say I live outside of Columbus because it's a lot easier. I think that one's true.
On all of our From the Middle posts, I always tag that the location is Columbus, even though we're, Gahanna, Sunbury, and Nurk.
Yeah.
Indeed. One of them, it's not on the list here, but I came across it. Stereotype of Ohioans.
See, there's one that you didn't expect. That's a correlation you didn't expect.
Yeah. I can't keep Hawaii and Ohio straight in my head. They're the same place.
So much similarities.
That Ohioans tend to describe distance with time measurements. Yeah. And it's something that Corey did. I did it earlier as well. And that you ask, where is Ada? And instead of guessing the number of miles, you tell them it's an hour away, 30 minutes south or whatever. Which that one kind of confused me when I read that, because I feel like does everybody not do that, or is that a legitimate stereotype?
I'm just thinking of the stand-up bit about as the crow flies. And then, as the crow flies, it's about 30 miles. And then the response is, well, how about as the man drives? How about those directions? I don't know.
I usually think that that's a rural and urban thing. Mm-hmm. So back where we're from in Ada, you would hear more miles. But as you get down here toward the big city, everything's 20 minutes away. If you're in the outer belt. So it's 20 minutes, 40 minutes, because it isn't about miles because of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might be too deep in the matrix on this one. I don't know.
I think this is one that we legitimately need feedback on to answer.
Yeah. We need feedback on all these for sure.
Yeah.
As long as everyone agrees with us.
Mm-hmm.
Like yolks and stuff.
I don't know. The rest of them are kind of silly.
I like those.
I need to find better ones. I'll find better ones.
We'll do this again. There's got to be plenty more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's super interesting. There's some of them that I've, if I don't know if this is a thing. We were talking about football, and I feel like it's especially common that because Ohio State generally is such a good football team, people's allegiance tends to be to our college team before the NFL teams. Not always, but it feels like that's the majority. But then you've got a lot of people spread well outside Columbus on the edges, and all of those folks also pick Ohio State as their favorite team, and then their closest college that they might have gone to, their kids might have gone to, is like the second team they root for. Yeah. So it's like everyone in Ohio is an Ohio State fan for the most part. And then if you live near Oxford, you're like, oh, I love Ohio State, but I also root for Miami, Ohio. Or, oh, I love Ohio State, but I also root for Bowling Green. And there's a lot of that. That feels like a very true, other than the very northern Ohio people that are Michigan fans, not Ohio State fans. I feel like that's everyone picks Ohio State first. And then it's like they've got their backup team that they know won't be as good as Ohio State.
Well, and I think that a lot of that has to do with there's no reason for rivalry there. I mean, they're not going to, in the most important sport in the state of football, there's not, it doesn't matter. You go to some other states, some other regions where you have more choices in D1 football than one, and the story is different then.
It's not about choices though, really, because there's what, 8, 9, 10 Division I teams in Ohio. It's about competitiveness, because if there aren't many states where there's a lot of schools, but one is always the best. We play the other Ohio schools, but they're not competitive. If you go to Florida, you have legitimately multiple competitive programs with like the University of Florida, Florida State, Miami, Florida over time, and then a bunch of like tier 2 programs. Ohio only has one tier 1 program, and then everything else is not competitive, even though we do play them. If you go to Alabama, you got to pick between Alabama and Auburn, and that's not to mention other programs that would be like Alabama State or what's the UAB, Alabama, Birmingham, some of the smaller schools. So it's like most other states, if they have more than one big team, you have to pick between them, South Carolina and Clemson. And that's just not a thing here. Like there's no other second team that most people root for or is a big rivalry because of competitiveness.
Right. Yeah. But I think that if that allegiance can change, if a school that somebody chooses to go to is on the same competitive level, I think their allegiance would actually change at that point. Ohio State would no longer be primary and that person.
Probably only if they leave the state. Like if
they would have to leave the state.
If somebody,
there's no other like you said, there's no other options here.
Yeah, if you're an Ohio State fan and you go to Notre Dame and you move to Indiana, then you might become a bigger Notre Dame fan than Ohio State.
I mean, I have friends who have lived that out. I have one friend in particular who went to Alabama and is now a tried and true Alabama fan.
So, that makes sense.
And then flaunts it like throughout the year. So she fleshes that out. In Michigan, a state that I'm a little bit more familiar with than a lot of folks around here, obviously. You do have the two options, Michigan State and Michigan. And the state is legitimately split about 50-50 between the two. So there the dynamic is different, and that like your neighbor, half of your neighbors aren't on your side, right? Yeah. So there isn't a clear-cut majority wherever you live. But you do have plenty of examples of people that grew up Michigan fans, tried and true. And then came time for college admissions and they didn't get in. And they ended up going to Michigan State. And now they swear off Michigan. And because that's the way it works. If you're a Michigan State fan, like Michigan is your mortal enemy at that point.
Yeah.
And so you do have people who they'll make the jump.
Yeah, and all the surrounding states to Ohio have the same issue as Michigan, because in Pennsylvania you've got Pitt, Penn State, if you're not even including like Temple, and then in Kentucky you've got Louisville and University of Kentucky. Even West Virginia has Marshall. Marshall's decent. Indiana has multiple schools: Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame. It's not until you get up into like Wisconsin and Minnesota that there's only really one option. Illinois has multiple Big Ten teams. Iowa has mainly one option. But Iowa State's decent. And so
you can switch conferences easily in Iowa.
Even surrounding states to Ohio don't really have that issue. And it's just kind of interesting. It's a team fan base dynamic thing.
And piggybacking off of what Kendall said, I always find it funny when there is a rivalry game and somebody from or closer to one of the cities that the college that they didn't get into ends up playing for the other team. That's something the color commentators and announcers always love to highlight. Yeah. Like, he's from Ohio, but they didn't pick him up. And so he went to Michigan.
Yeah.
Because that just makes you more excited to watch that specific player during that specific rivalry game, because they've got a chip on their shoulder.
100%.
Anyway, fun stuff. Isn't living in the Midwest fun, you guys? I don't know what people's problems are.
I don't either. Can't we all just get along?
Can't we all
be kind? That was one of the stereotypes, is that we're kind people.
Ooh. How do you feel about that one? You think we're kind? Like the stereotype about Canadians?
I think there's a stereotype about Midwesterners that we tend to be hospitable.
The whole passive hope thing.
The whole passive ope thing. Yeah. There's the ope. Excuse me.
Oh, my bad. Just going to scoot past you here.
Yeah. Can I squeeze right by you? Right past you.
Oh no, man. I like that's just as much the Southern stereotype as it is the Midwest. I think
Yeah.
basically as long as you're not on the East Coast, that probably applies to you in most of the rest of the country. And I'm not knocking anybody on the East Coast. No one's like, oh yeah, East Coast hospitality. That's just not a thing people say. So
Right.
like, I think most of the rest of the country gets that stereotype only because the big, large swaths of the country are not urbanized. And I think that's really like an urban versus rural stereotype more than anything else.
That's probably pretty accurate.
I don't think anyone's knocking like the people in Vermont either as being like, oh, you're just like those people in Boston.
Yeah.
You're really rude, brazen. I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah. It's like people watch Little House on the Prairie when they're a kid, and then they think that everybody who lives in the Midwest is like that.
Yeah.
Because if you live on the coast, like this is me stereotyping people now. If you live on the coast, there's a good chance that like you've never met somebody who doesn't live in a city, but you know that in the Midwest there's a lot of them. And
I think I told you guys the story. My first time in California, I was in line. I think it was at an In-N-Out Burger. And I was going to ask about the secret menu. So I say to the person in front of me, hey, how's it going? And without skipping a beat, they just go, you're not from around here, are you? Simply because I said, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. That's like the stereotype in like with like New York. And from our point of view, nobody's walking around New York like nodding and smiling at people as you walk by them. That's just not a thing. You're not even, you're just straight ahead, where I think there is a little more of that here. It's not
I would agree.
to walk by somebody and be like, hey, give them the bro, like, hey, what's going on?
That's a good point. If I'm walking someplace where there's very few people or almost nobody, and there's one other person walking by me in the park, I will acknowledge them.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like that's standard around here. And I think that's a good illustration. I would not expect that in New York City. But good luck trying to find a place where there's no other people in New York City. So,
right.
We'll have to do more of this list another time because this is good. I know you said the rest of them might have been stinkers on that list, but
I'm sure I can find better ones.
We'll keep compiling because I think it's interesting to do the whole true false on some of those and see what the stereotypes of us are.
Speaking of stinkers, it doesn't stink. Artiest Man products. And I wanted to tell you guys about my most recent purchases because I got a few new things and I'm super excited about it. I'm not wearing it now, but I got the heather gray and black backed Artiest Man cap. It's a branded Bills hat. Very nice. New Woodwick candle that I'm super excited about it. Pipe Night. And I was like a bunch of guys sitting around smoking pipes. And then I got the classic gentleman.
The guys or the pipes?
Yes. And I got the classic gentleman beard shampoo, which is also very nice. If you would like to have some of these wonderful men's grooming products, I highly recommend that you visit www.artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. Fill your cart up with some of those goodies. Use promo code THEMIDDLE to get 25% off your first order. I think you're going to love it. Anything else? Anything else, boys? Feels like we're winding down here.
We are winding down. I've bitten the heads off of a lot of gummy bears.
I feel good about it. Not the gummy bears.
I feel good about that part.
Are their heads crushed?
Their heads are crushed.
Hey, tune in next week. We're super excited to have the Wizard of Za, Spencer, and can't wait to hear his story about his success disrupting the pizza industry here in Columbus. And we can't wait to tell you about our experience having eaten it. So Follow us everywhere. There is now one link to rule them all. We have a link tree for you. So just clink on the link below. Clink on the link below.
And
Link on the link, baby. Clink on the link.
Also has a little tab towards the bottom that says voicemail. There's a number there. Just dial it on your phone like you would call any other phone number. It'll go straight to voicemail, but you can leave us one. We might feature it on the show. It also has our YouTube links if you like the visuals and the things that we talk about. Go subscribe and listen and like and comment on all the social platforms, including YouTube. But we'd love some voicemails as well. And if you have any questions for Spencer, then certainly leave us those voicemails. And if we don't play them, we'll at least try to read them off and throw any questions in that you guys might have.
Right on. Good hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. Bye. I love you.